From the 60s until today, Thomas Bayrle has explored the transformations of society by focusing on the interdependent relationship between the individual and collectivity. In his work, Bayrle has experimented with different medias, materials, techniques, but something that constantly returns in his practice is his unique focus on the idea of repetition as something that drives every dynamic in society. In the 1960s, he invented the SuperForms. What are they? They're images made of images. They're complex patterns built out of repeated units with people, products, mechanisms. And in a way, through the SuperForms, he has anticipated the digital language of pixels. The retrospective exhibition Form, Form, SuperForm is a non-linear journey through some of the key themes of Bayrle's work, such as consumerism, mass production, economics, and faith, in a very specific connection to the Lingotto, the former Fiat factory that hosts the exhibition. For Bayrle, everything is repetition, and in this first room of the exhibition, a concert is played by different engines. There's a Citroën engine playing Edith Piaf, Vespini playing Maria Callas' Aida, a conductor, a windshield wiper of an Audi that plays Eric Satie repeated music. But repetition is also in religion, spirituality, and the Volkswagen engine is mixed with a recording of followers praying in churches. Cars as a constant symbol of progress, technology, and leap in the future also comes back in this Chrysler logo that Bayrle designed already in the 70s and is here presented through this large wallpaper that embraces the room. These two giant tires are one of the most recent works by Thomas Bayrle. They are created with historical image of the pista and the factory from the Fiat archive. In a way, they remind us how industrial archaeology is at the root of a process that repeats and leads us in the future.
Before becoming an artist, Thomas Bayrle apprenticed at a weaving factory in Germany in the late 1950s. This experience would have a long-lasting impact on him and continue to influence his work throughout his practice. By day, he made commercial advertisements, and by night, he printed ephemera for activists. For instance, this work, Pegulan, from 1967, was originally a design for a flooring company. Yet in it are symbols of Bayrle's own interests. Each figure holds aloft a cone of red thread similar to those used in weaving, but they also look like Chairman Mao's little red book that was produced in communist China. While industrial weaving, political activism, and the provincialism of Frankfurt shaped Bayrle's outlook on society around him, he was at the same time fascinated by the scenes of mass demonstrations coming out of China during those years. Amongst his earliest works are a series often referred to as his painting machines that combine images from Western advertising with those of the Cultural Revolution. Progressing into the 70s, Bayrle would expand his interest in consumer products to the physical infrastructures of cities and motorways. What created value was no longer the production of goods, but the movement of capital. Amongst his catalogue of imagery, it is perhaps the street that is most emblematic of the connective tissue that binds Bayrle's work. It was around this time the artist began using the simple design of the road, itself a byproduct of the automobile, as a symbol of the flow of goods, people and money that was taking place within global urban centres. As well as patterned out of cardboard, Bayrle's endless repetition of streets in paintings, moving image, and large-scale sculptures become threads of woven textiles, church architecture, film strips, conveyor belts, and veins in a body. For instance, Autobahnkreuz is made up of film clips of traffic on motorways that, when zoomed out, form the image of Christ crucified on the cross.
This room of the exhibition focuses on a particular group of works from the 80s. This is when Thomas Bayrle looks at religion, because he notices how the building of icons in our society, of religious icons, often follows the way we look at consumer products, or even the way we look at icons and we worship icons from the cinema. A particular canvas from the late 80s depicts a Madonna and Child, a very traditional iconography from our history, but the way it is built from the Mercedes, from cars. Cars are in a way a symbol of status, luxury, that recalls the dynamics of spirituality and faith. This image looks digital, but of course it's not, and it's created through a very complex process where the analog photograph of the Mercedes is printed on latex and then stretched by hands by the artist and his assistant to fit the final image. Export is a canvas, but what is interesting that even the process, once again, through which it's made, conceptually mirrors the subject. It's done by stamps applied on the canvas, stamps of crosses. The depiction is somehow religious, but also it's a man from Wall Street, so once again, economy. And behind, a complex wallpaper creates a texture. In reality, they're single images of people walking in the square of Frankfurt. They remind like a genetic code of DNA, but they are kind of progressing individually, but on a street. And at the same time, they build up a motif that looks like the stained glass windows from churches. This idea of going around, like the prayers around the Kaaba, a television, but at the same time, like the tires, where Thomas Bayrle inscribed the Ave Maria, a prayer, and on the tires, little cross implicitly print a sort of spiritual image on the street, and at the same time they recount how our own movement in space can be considered sacred.
In the 70s, Bayrle also meticulously painted several canvases emblematic of societal changes that were taking place not only in Germany, but in Italy too, since both countries experienced so-called economic miracles after the Second World War. In Rimini, Rush Hour and Chairman, the superforms of human figures represent tourism, film and business. While on a residency at Villa Massimo in Rome, Bayrle took the opportunity to travel around Italy. He spent a week in Rimini studying holidaymakers lounging beneath parasols that stretched across its beaches. Bayrle saw tourism as a kind of production, like the invention of the movie star that the golden age of Hollywood had constructed, a fiction propagated by films such as Federico Fellini's La Dolce Vita. Italy's burgeoning car industry also appealed to the artist, especially in the form of Agnelli, who encapsulated the image of the modern businessman at the time, a powerful, stylish and popular figure, a superstar in Bayrle's eyes.
This room pays homage to a very important exhibition that happened in 1968. This is in fact a sort of little reproduction of Produzione Bayrle, a show that Thomas Bayrle did in Brera at the Galleria Apollinaire of Guido Le Noci upon the invitation of famous artist Lucio Fontana, who had met Bayrle in Frankfurt and had been very fascinated with his work. Bayrle covers the entire space of the exhibition with these pop motifs of caps, shoes, cows from the Bashkiri, that even invade this plastic silkscreen works, and also a series, a production of raincoats that people are invited to wear. So this art invades every part, from images to space to the body of the visitors, to the whole experience of art. In form, SuperForm, everything repeats, from the title to the way visitors experience the show.